Oh!
We've got to bring a little bit of glitter and glam to you all. Hey, Jack. Hey, Anthony. Oh, and Donald. Woohoo.
It's a throwback to the 70s show.
It is.
Man, I didn't get the
wearing my
memo.
Abba-chic for you. It's that Friday feeling.
Oh, Sue, you look
Wonderful.
fantastic. So good to have you here.
I'm absolutely thrilled to bits to be here. Thank you for inviting me, both of you.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
lovely to get to hang out with you.
yeah, it's good to see you too, Kevin, I guess.
I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah. I have to say whatever. Hi, Sue.
Hi. And back to me.
Well, Sue, we've known you for probably, I want to say 5 years or so. Is that about right?
Yeah.
From SML, right? So
SML, yeah.
Shout out to all the SML people in the chat here. But for people who don't know you, and I know that's hard to like fathom that people might not know the great Sue Bays.
No, it's just Sue.
What's that? It's
just Sue. She only needs one name.
Yeah.
They were laughing because I put Sue in the name description, and they said, "Do you not want to tell people Sue Bays?" And I went, "No."
They know. Oh, that's Sue.
Yeah, how do you not know?
I said, "I'm sorry, we've got corporate standards here. We have to have first name and last
If we can list them down, let me know what the standards are.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sure I must break some of them.
I've got a whole book, so I'll send them over to you, Kevin and Sue. So track that. But it's great to see you. Jack, Donald, Jason, Christina. Hey.
Kisses to Christina.
Yes. Brett and Aaron is, of course, in the chat today. So good to see you. And Anthony might actually be on the live stream. Would you guys like to talk with Anthony? Do you guys know Anthony?
Yeah.
Sue, you know Anthony, don't you?
I know Anthony. Anthony and I hang out every week together.
Shut the front door.
We do.
Where do you hang out?
We do Devon and Cornwall meetup group every week. We hang out together and we have guests on, and they chat away to us.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sue, but tell the people, who are you? What do you do? Where could people find you and stuff?
Oh, so I am an independent data engineering analyst-y type person. I'm based in the UK, down in the far southwest, Devon and Cornwall. And I basically work for businesses, helping them manage their data. So I tend to be on the smaller side of businesses. They're big enough that they have meaningful data that they can't manage, but not so big that they can afford to have a data department. I've got a YouTube channel, and if Anthony's in the stream, he'll share it for me.
I've got it for you here.
You got it for me. So
if you're not a subscriber, make sure you like and subscribe to Sue's YouTube channel.
Oh, yes, please. So I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a database. Is the name of my business, which I thought was quite genius, really. Database.
Ooh, interesting.
Boom. That was a good one. And you can find me on LinkedIn. So, Mark's here as well. Hey, Mark.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you can find LinkedIn is the place basically to find me, and I post loads of stuff about data. I'm a complete data addict. I'm also a huge running addict as well. So
I understand to that extent. You're coming to the US soon?
I am. I fly out on Thursday to meet.
Shut up.
Shut up. And guess who I'm staying with?
Who?
A fellow SML. I'm staying with Jack. Yes.
Oh, that's
out in California.
Out in California, and he's taking me on the vineyards and looking around. And I'm running Napa Valley Marathon on the Sunday morning, And then Jack's giving me a tour of Opus Winery on Monday.
Oh, great.
I get to hang out with Jack and his lovely wife, Laurie.
Is this going to be your first marathon in the US?
First one in the US, yes.
Nice.
But it's going to be my 15th marathon.
Wow.
I did them all out. I was quite surprised. Yes.
15th marathon. Wow.
4 of those have been ultras as well. Yeah. So
Well,
Yeah, I think it's been an
hang on.
amazing journey with you, because I think when we first met, you weren't running marathons.
No,
And
I
then you
was just
started
running.
talking about how you were training, how you
Yeah.
started combining different, things that you do together and work it all into your training.
Yeah.
Because I know you've talked and shared a lot about all the data that you collect about your
Yeah.
running and everything, right? So
Yeah. And I think
it's amazing.
that's what the I think that's what the key is. I know we're going to go into certification shortly, but it's finding something that matters to you. So like you said, Kevin, I only started running marathons just under 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Lots of different reasons, but I just love running, and you sort of, the more you run, the more you want to run, or I do, and then it was a challenge, and I did my first marathon, and it was quite comfortable, and so I then got addicted. But Garmin, see, I've got a Garmin, and
Okay.
and then of course with marathons, it's a lot of not just physical strength, it's visiting the wine. It's also mental. It's very much mental process, and it's the same with any type of data. You can't manage it unless you can measure it. So I'm continually measuring the data, and then just before you start to do one, you have all these crises of confidence. Have I trained enough? Have I you don't think you're correct? I'll bring some for you, Jack. You have all these and this again will link to certification, but you have all of these elements of doubt. Have I trained enough? Have I what's my heart rate like? Have I done this? Particularly if you're racing, I think it's different when you're just running, but if you're going for a time, and that's where the data comes in, which ties in with any business. It's about knowing where you are, where you want to be. Is it feasible? Can you achieve it? It is on Amazon.
It is?
It is on Amazon.
I cannot find it at all. I'm sorry. My Google Foo is
No, if you can't, I'll buy it and send it you.
well,
I'll bring it over and post you a copy.
share the link. There's several people that want it for FabCon. Are you coming to FabCon?
I'm not going this year.
Oh.
It was Napa Valley won over, but I'm hoping to do FabCon in Vienna, and I'm hoping to come to the States next year and do FabCon then.
Honestly, that probably makes sense for you if you're a small independent consultant in EU.
Yeah.
Go to the EU FabCon where there'll be EU clients there, right? So,
yeah. I went to Stockholm last year, and that was amazing. It was absolutely brilliant. And
Did anyone in the chat go to the Fabric February that was just in
Oswald?
Yeah.
I spoke to hear me name drop. I had Phil Seamark on my show.
Shut up, really?
Oh yeah, we like that.
You get all the popular guests.
Yeah, we're buddies now. But he was on, and he said it was brilliant. He really enjoyed it. Oh, give over, Donald. It's not. He says his running days over 25 years ago. That's just defeatist. Give over, Donald.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, apparently it was brilliant. So I'm hoping to next year come over to Vegas, because Vegas is, I mean, if a hat like this needs to be in Vegas, really.
Right. How could it not be in Vegas, right?
Well,
we probably started in Vegas, so.
It's ABBA, yeah. But we don't know what, because we have sequel bits in the UK as well, and they usually have a theme, and they haven't announced the theme yet. So I'm hoping they might watch this and think, oh, Abba. If you're watching anyone from Sequel Bits, I have the outfit.
Yeah, you're ahead of the game. So let's choose the theme around Sue.
That might be a great way to go. I've seen some of their themes, and
you see Chris Webb dressed as Robin Hood. And Phil, I think Phil was a pilot, because we had planes. So I went. Do any of you read Terry Pratchett? You read Terry Pratchett? Christina,
no.
I know Christine will have done. And I went as Nanny Og, because it was about aviation, and she's a witch, and she had a broomstick which flew. So I went as a witch.
You went as a witch, huh?
That's interesting.
That's awesome.
Like to think outside the box.
Awesome. So, gonna bring us back in here to kind of circle the wagons, because clearly we can talk for hours about wonderful things. But we wanted to talk today about certifications, the DP 700. But
take the glasses off for the DP 700.
Oh, okay. So now we're getting serious. Everybody lock in.
It won't last for long. I think that's why you always like, when I turn up at Sequel Bits, it's like turn up at SML, it's like, oh, here we go. It's when we turned up, Anthony, Christian and I, when we were all staying at Christian's house in Romania. Like,
that was
God,
funny.
3 of them.
Yeah, that was a fun Saturday morning learning session. So let's move on.
So let's ground ourselves on, before we dive right to the heart of the matter, let's just hit on certifications and the overall value. And Sue, I know you've been doing a lot of teaching on certifications. I hear I'll let you relay the feedback on how amazing you are. But I've been very vocal about my challenges around certifications in the past, because I think they can create a false sense of authority for people who may or may not have really ever worked with some of the tooling and some of the capabilities. And just because you know the book answer doesn't mean you know the real world answer. And so I've struggled with that. And then conversely, you may know all the real world answers in the world, but that doesn't mean you're going to know how to answer the book questions. And I think the certifications, at least the last time I did one, which was 15 years ago, was very much all book answered based. And so I was just like, this is bunk. What's your take on that, Sue? What's your response to that?
I think it's a really valid point, and I don't think certifications are everything. However, I would say that I have a lot, and I like them. I really like them because it gives me confidence to learn, and I love learning, and it gives you a structure. So, and our technology is just evolving all the time. So for me, it's a way to stay up to date. And certifications, whilst I might not use everything that I've learned, I know what it is, and I know where it is, and I know how to find it, and I know its purpose. And we were chatting about this before, and it's a bit like learning to drive. There's a difference between the theory of sat in a car with an instructor where you start to learn to drive and you pass your test. But then when you're behind the wheels on your own, that's when you really learn to drive properly. So to me, certifications are a structure to enable you to understand what's happening, but there's no real learning other than actually doing that practical element. And I, before I sort of got involved with Power BI, I was quite, I used Python and R, and I use Data Camp. And I don't know if you've heard of Data Camp, but it's
a training program, right?
Yeah, it's a training program. And, I used that years ago, and it was absolutely fabulous. It went through a bit of a rocky time at one point, but prior to that, it was brilliant. But everything was in a sandbox. So they would give you the data, they would give you the code, and you'd write it all out. And then you would try to apply it to your real life data, and it just didn't work. And you're like, but it works there, but it doesn't work here. And that's the difficulty with the data that we're using all the time. Is dirty, it's messy, it makes no sense at all. You've got stuff coming in from different places that are named in different things, and the problem is many of the certifications are set up to enable you to work on data that's curated to show you what you can do, which I love, because that shows me the capability of what's out there. But you've got to get your hands dirty as well. And then this comes back to the Garmin stuff, the Garmin data. You can do it, you can get downloads, or you can have an API. And if you have an API, it comes in JSON, and then that JSON is nested within nested, and it's nasty. So you need to find something that is nasty that you can work on to really hone your skills for the real world, I would say. But most of my businesses are smaller businesses, and I say this thinking, larger enterprise businesses won't have the same issues, but most people I talk to go, you'd be surprised.
Yeah. So I think you hit on a really good point, right? Chris kind of started it, you kind of hit on it. I think there was many years that a lot of certification exams went through this thing of, like you said, is they have answers on there. It's like you would never do it that way.
No.
So you said you've passed a lot. I don't know how many. I can't remember how many you have. 100, 200 certifications now. No, I'm joking with you.
Badges and stuff. I'll show you my learning thing in a minute.
Okay, but you have all these certifications, right? Do you feel like a lot of the answers are closer? Because I think a lot of the companies have heard that feedback and tried to combat that.
Yeah. Have you tried the Microsoft Learn site?
I've used it for a couple things, right? I've moved away from getting all the certifications for a while, just kind of too busy with all of it. But
you find, Microsoft Learn, I know I'm a data platform MVP, but this isn't coming from there. This is coming from an independent person, and a qualified lecturer as well. It's really good. It's excellent. It's a structured, so you don't have to, you pay for nothing. Microsoft Learn's completely free,
right.
But it's really well structured, and it takes you through the theory with little bite-sized things, but then it also takes you into labs where you can practice. And what the benefit of that is, particularly now with this Fabric environment, is you can, and it tells you, it tells you to delete all the workspaces at the end. Don't bother, keep them, because then you can go back and do your own exercises. So you'll do and it'll show you how things work and what to do. And you can pull in a streaming data flow, a data set. You can use KQL, and then it says, right, delete it all. No.
So when you do those labs, do you have to do them in your own environment, or do they have?
Yeah, it takes you. But once you set it up, you get the trial Fabric environment. So it enables you to play. And from my understanding of people that are using Fabric within their environments, it keeps getting renewed if you use it. But
so far.
I've seen one or two cases where it hasn't, but
yeah.
I think you said something interesting there, Sue, that really struck a chord to me. And and you've said this before, and this is what's been sticking in my head, is that the certification makes sure that you're aware of all of the potential components that are out there, even
Yeah.
if you don't know,
Mhm.
if you don't have a great deal of experience with it, you know about them. And to me, that really resonated, right? Like,
Mm,
maybe I do addition and subtraction all day, every day,
mm.
but I need to know about multiplication and division, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that made a lot of sense to me. Like, okay, if I'm getting started in the world of math, I
Yeah.
need to learn all of those 4
Yeah.
topics so
Yeah.
that I could speak to it, even if I never, ever, ever do multiplication or
Yeah.
division. I need to know about them, and
Yeah.
that makes a great deal of sense, because one day might come where, oh, now today I have to start doing multiplication. And
Yeah.
if you have you have at least a minimal understanding of how it works, you can start to engage with it and work with it.
And also, if you understand what it is, then it helps you decide which is the best option, and to
Mhm.
be prepared if you're feeding on to
Mhm.
multiplication. So I did a session for Microsoft Reactor. I know Kevin's been helping do some of the
I've
proctoring.
only been behind the scenes. You've been up front, so.
Yeah, I've been up front. I can share this. We'll share the links with you. But I did a session with a data platform MVP called Joshua Higginbotham, who's based in the States, and he's absolutely brilliant. And when we went through the slides, we sort of went through and decided which ones we were going to do. And I use data flows a lot. I use Python. We were both nerding out over Python. And he uses shadowing, and he's a great database person and using links. And I said to him, I know what this technology is, and I understand why and when you would use it, but practically I've not had to. And he went, well, I'll do that bit. And I said, well, and the data flows was on his slide, and I said, I know this inside out. I'll do that bit. And yeah, he's lovely. And but what we decided to do is we decided to share with the audience that we were doing it for that reason, so that people feel comfortable that they don't have to know the ins and outs of everything, but they need
Mhm.
to understand what shortcuts are, what a mirroring of a database is, and to be, like you said, it's the multiplication and the division. And I mean, our world is just expanding at a phenomenal rate, and it's not possible to know everything. I mean, I'm quite lucky because I'm small, so I get involved in lots of different
Yeah.
things. But if like you said, Chris, you're a data engineer and you're working primarily in SQL, or you're using Spark, then you might not get involved in the modeling bit or the reporting side, or the visualization, because you'll be doing, data ingestion. So I think it helps with that.
And I think your point of where you said, I'm small, meaning you deal with a lot of small clients, right?
Mm,
And so having this broad exposure
mm,
to everything, because what they care about, right, is, are you able to kind of quickly get me the data that you need, right?
yeah, yeah.
And they're not going to be caught up in like what a lot of big enterprises are kind of set up to do, is they have other standards. They say,
Mm,
we're always going to do notebooks for this, right?
mm,
You have a lot more flexibility to kind of
mm,
say, hey, this is going to be the easiest thing to kind of get you going, whether that's a data flow, right, or a pipeline or something like
mm.
that. Having more flexibility, so it's to your advantage to at least have
Oh,
a
huge.
layer, right, and then go deep when you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I find the resources. And it's not just the Microsoft Learn, but I mean, things like this, your Fabric Fridays, you can find things that you want all the time to help you learn, and
Hmm.
to improve and to get better. Do you know?
Holy cow. I just so I totally forgot. That's you're Sue, you're exactly right. And I'm doing it's like this is our first show. Like, we've not done this before. We're here to answer questions from people out there. So if you have questions, please post those in the chat.
We're
I
just having
say
fun.
at minute 25 into the live stream.
It's a
Oh,
hat.
Yeah. Sue, you've completely got us befuddled. We are.
Yeah.
You've
This is
thrown us
what happens when
completely
I go
off
on
the game.
SML, a whiz in. Like, oh God, whatever we were going to do today is probably not going to happen.
That's all right.
Hey, I say I know it's not a certificate. Have you seen in Excel? I found the automate button for Office scripts.
What?
I didn't know
No.
that was there. There's an automate. There's a whole new button in Excel called automate, which you can write Office scripts, and then you can use Power Automate to automate those Office scripts.
Shut the front door. Really?
Really, seriously. So I had, I know it's not certification, but it's about learning, isn't it? And understanding and knowing it was there. So I had a customer, bringing in lots of semantic models, want to put them all into a dashboard. And it's super nice, Christina. Yeah, there's a whole new button and whole new tab in Excel.
So you start the button, it starts collecting the steps that you perform.
Well, you tell it what you want to do. So what I wanted to do was I've got loads and loads of different models for one, different semantic models. And I had a customer, they want that model, that measure from that model, that measure from that model, that measure from that model. And they're all coming from a whole variety of different things.
Oh, look at this.
Wanted to put them all. So I thought, well, how am I going to do that? I could do it in different ways. I could go to Power Automate, or I could write, but I don't really like Power Automate in DAX because it confuses me. So I thought I'll pop them into Excel and then use that Excel as a feed for another Power BI report. And then I've got them all because I want to do row level security on one thing. So instead of having to do it on all these other ones, I'll do it on one. And so so that was all fine and that worked and it was brilliant. I was like, how am I going to get it to refresh? I only need it to refresh once a day. And you could use VBA, but the workbook has to be open to use VBA.
Yeah.
Unless you do a VBA script, which will open the workbook and then run it. And then I was like, oh, it's too complicated. So in Office scripts, you can write a script to refresh all the data sources. And then you can get Power Automate to run that script without you opening the Excel workbook, which then refreshes all your data.
Holy crap. I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was so excited. Yeah.
I'll say 10, 15 years ago, I built a platform that had to do that. All it did was there was a server for opening Excel workbooks. It would open the Excel workbooks, refresh the Excel workbooks, close the Excel workbooks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it did every day.
All I need it to do. And it's two-factor authentication. So open it up, set it all up, and then Excel Online, it just works. It does bring a set of limitations, but it's working for me, Christy. So I'm not asking it to do anything complicated. I just want it to refresh my data sets, and it's doing it. But yeah, it's brilliant. But it does go back to what we're talking about. Certification enables you to see things that you didn't know were there, because you might be in your bubble, and your bubble means the day job gets done. But there are always better ways to do things.
Yeah. So we think a lot of here around Fabric, Power BI certifications. Have you taken the Excel certifications as well?
I haven't done recently. I've got my Excel. Do you remember years ago there was the ECDL, European Computer Driving License? So I did that, and then I did all the Excel, Excel Access, etc. Then I did the advanced ones. I can't remember what they are called now, but I haven't. And I do this. I do this live stream every 2 weeks with Wynne Hopkins, Mark Proctor, and Giles Mail, and they are. I mean, Wynne and Mark both are Power BI people as well, but primarily I would say they are top notch at Excel, all three. And I'm learning so much from them by being part of this. Excel is just on fire at the moment. The amount of functionality and the way it's changing and evolving. You can run Python in Excel.
So I have not heard of what did you call it? The European Union?
Oh, ECDL.
Yeah.
So this was probably 20 years ago because I'm old.
Okay. Does it still exist, or is
I
it
don't
gone away?
know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because like Amin earlier brought up about,
Have I got-
there's some professions that need continuing education
Yeah.
units, right? And what we're doing, like, we don't really have to have, continuing education courses or things, right? You take one of the Microsoft certifications. Every year they send you out a pretty simplified
I know.
test to renew it, right?
Yeah.
I did see a discussion on this somewhere else a while ago, going, it's so simple, and you could, search and do everything. Is the renewal even valid? But anyways, like, we don't have across our industry some type of professional licensing or standards that say you have to have this much education every single year. So I didn't know if that was something with that other course 20 years ago, or have you seen or heard anything
So
about that? Go ahead.
yeah, I'm just looking to see. You want to share my screen, Chris?
Sure.
Yeah, Donald and Ant, if they're using Excel 2003, really, that's 22 years old. Seriously, I just say to them, no. And I've had businesses where their extracts are Excel 2000. I'm just like, no, it won't work. It don't. So yeah, this was it, 2003 Expert Part 2. So all these certifications are all there, but that's 10 years. So analyzing, visualizing data.
Clearly, you don't know what you're doing in Excel, but
Yeah.
Oh, I love Excel. I'm a very happy person. Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hey, I do want to talk to you about the DP 700.
700. Yes.
But before we dive into that, we do have two questions.
Oh.
Donald wants to know, what do you like most about Kimball's tech teachings?
See, I still get confused with Kimball and Inman. Inman, yeah. And it's like, well, which one of those is the, so for me, sometimes it gets too complex for me, Donald.
And that's perfectly fine. We'll just go on to Mark's question. For us new to DAX, Mark, have you been in a car accident? You teach DAX. So for us new to DAX,
did you hit your head?
Yeah.
So
what's your go-to? What's your first book and second book that you recommend people look at?
I would say all of them. I've just bought this.
Oh.
So I've done. I've read all the books. I've done the SQL BI DAX. I've done their optimizing DAX. I've done all of the DAX things. But we had Phil Seamark, and he was going through. Kimball is a star schema one, but doesn't Inman talk about star schemas as well? One's like a transactional, and one's something else.
Inman doesn't get to the star schema till very, very late.
Yeah, he does it. He does do it,
but he doesn't even refer to it as star schemas. But in the religion debate years later, Inman did come out with an article that kind of talked about with his layers and his architecture that sooner or later that you get to what Kimball is doing, and that was almost like a peace offering.
I got that one too. Yeah, that one too.
This is my favorite book, and I'll tell you why.
I've got that one.
This book is focused in on delivering and solving real world situations, and it talks about how you combine DAX statements together to come up with your end product. So I look at this like a DAX recipe book that tells you how to make analytical cakes, right? So if you want to know how to make a cake, you go here. You don't just look up how to make an egg or how to use an egg. No, I mean, like, okay, that's egg, right?
Yeah.
That's flour. That's the other books. They show you what an egg is or what flour is. This shows you how to make a cake, and that's
I
why
like
love
that,
it.
and I use that one and that pattern all the time for. There was a specific pattern that I wanted in there, and it was to do with. I can't even remember what it was now. Something to do with open periods.
Oh,
So
yeah.
different dates. So when things are, how long they're open for, start date, close date. So
Yeah.
how many at any point in time have you got that are open? So yeah, completely agree. But what this one did, which you probably won't find so useful, was Phil went through it from a database person, because I'm sort of half databasey, and I'll tell you what really threw me when I started doing DAX and star schemas, was they were talking about normalization, and to me databases are all was all 3NF. So it took me a little while to realize that it was all going to be 1NF, and I was like, oh well, why didn't someone just say that, and then I would understand. So but I quite liked that one, because that sort of goes through the table format, and you're always really good with that, Kevin, with Kerbals challenges. You would put things in a table first. You would do your tables and then you would do your measures, whereas I'm more of a measure branching person.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of a different approach, but I agree with you on what Phil's book has in it, right? And when because I don't think I bought the book, but as I kind of went through and started thinking about it from some things people shared from that book or whatever, it really did help me kind of years ago. So
here we go. Donald's
Phil
on
is a brilliant engineer, and he helped solve some like real world incredibly difficult challenges, and he's just such a sharp guy that I like his content too. So,
yeah.
All right.
Certification, DP
certifications.
So we got Donald. I'm looking at the chat. Donald's
he's all over all the Kimball and the normal forums. This is our normal Friday. Our normal Friday with Donald. We'll have to bring him on and let him talk about it one day. So.
Oh my gosh, Donald, will you be on to talk Kimball? Like, we're gonna have to line that up. It's gonna have to be like the third Friday of every month. Donald Parrish talking
DP 700.
Yeah.
So Sue, getting back to certifications.
DP 700.
What is it like to take a certification test, right? So you've studied, you think you learned, you know everything, right? What is it actually like to take one? What happens there?
Horrific. So I mean, what I would say, obviously, you've got the Microsoft Learn, practice. It is, and we'll talk about which type of certification, I'm sure, later. But when you actually sit to do the certification, and I think Shabnam's got a really nice video on it as well. But it's terrifying, because not just because of sitting the certification, but you have a proctor. So when you start, you have someone watching you that entire time.
So you tend to go to a site.
I prefer doing it at home, because there's.
How does that work? Do they come over?
Yeah, that'd be quite nice. Have a cup of tea and some banana cake. Well, no, what they have to do. So you have to, on all seriousness, you need to test out that your software works with their software first. So the first thing you need to do is test everything works so that it will run on your system. Then you're not allowed two screens, and they are brutal. You're only allowed one screen. So I've got like two big monitors. So I have to take one of my monitors up and I put it on a table over to the side. Well, that wasn't good enough. It had to be facing the walls, and the power sockets were taken out so they could see it didn't have power. The whole of your desk needs to be completely clean. You need to take pictures of the front of your room, the side of your room, the back of your room. You need to make sure that nobody comes in, because that would invalidate the test.
Potentially even animals, because
I've
heard things of like, they just hear a door open type of thing. Like my dog pushes the door open all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You see the dogs, yeah, you need to take that out. Then what you have to do is you wait and you have to make, so what you have to do is you have to show them, you take pictures, then you have to show them your room. And if your camera is attached to your your desktop, it's really quite difficult to show them all of your room. So you need to allow enough time to do all of this before you get stressed sitting the exam. And then they need to be able to hear you and see you. And I'm a one, I'll like talk to myself or something like that, and they're like, you're not allowed to do that.
You're not allowed to do that either.
You're not allowed to do that. So there's lots of different.
You have to stay in pretty much the center of the frame for what they see, because they're using, whether it's AI or not, but they're using, like the person that checks you out doesn't sit there and stare at their cameras all day long. But they have their software is monitoring. That's why it's just like any sound that comes up, if you move off screen for more than a couple seconds, they'll flag the proctor to come back in and say, what are you doing? And it could invalidate the test. So do it at home. The time that I did it, luckily my brother was moving out of his apartment and it was mostly packed up. And I went and sat there because then, like I said, like you were saying, everything was already off. And there was a printer, and I had to show that the printer was unplugged. There was no paper on it, all that type of stuff. And so there's a couple comments coming in about people prefer to go on site just because of all of that.
It is, but it's finding it's okay if you're somewhere where you can go to a site. I had the doorbell going, and you just had to ignore it. And my phone, I could just ignore it. And Josh said when he did his. He was sat in the kitchen doing the exam, and the chap was knocking on the door to say, "Got your parcel?" looking through the window, and he just had to completely ignore him. But you have that amount of and you have to make sure, like Mark's just said. So I had to test my software. So I had to turn off Citrix. I had to turn off snipping tools. I had to turn off Teams. So you have to make sure that there's nothing running in the background at all. And this is before you even sit and do the exam. And then when you're doing the exam, you're terrified that someone will come and do something, so you just have to completely ignore everyone. So I would say allow yourself plenty of time, make sure your desk is clear, move the laptop out of the way, make sure you've got your passport or whatever it is you're using. So and Shabnam's got a really good video on what to do.
She just put that out recently, and I know, like through the 700 training, they've been they've been sharing that.
I've got it on my screen actually.
Oh, do you?
Oh,
and if you have, if
let
you
me
have the
flip
link,
over.
Put it into our private chat as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put the link in the private chat because it is quite. Quite stressful. Even before you're sitting the exam, there's a link. Even before you're sitting the exam, you have to go through all of these different things to go through it. You can do it, and I do all of mine at home. And now I know what's coming. Then I'm prepared for it. So it's all okay. But you do have to allow yourself time so that you've got time to sit and to do it, and make sure no one's going to come and interrupt you.
Right.
And then that way, Scott's taking his PL 300 this afternoon in person.
Yeah. Any advice for him?
Just be confident that you've covered the material, and which you should have done if you're taking it. What I always do is the way that your brain works, read the questions, answer the ones you know straight away, and the ones that you don't know, click review, because the back part of your brain will still be thinking about it as you're going through, and then you can return to the ones and then re-answer them. So you do the ones you know, then you do the ones you sort of know, and then you leave the ones you're not sure about until the end. And work
the
out
end of the section, right?
Yeah.
Because if there are sometimes, like you have a case study
Yeah.
or something else, you move on from that and you're not allowed to go back. I
Yeah.
think it
So
does a good job of telling you, but
yeah, it
yeah.
does a really good, and they tell you before the DP 700. I think there's one case study bit, and once you've answered that, you can't go back. But the other ones you can go back to, and it's also quite logical, really. We were talking about this before. You know, you do have to have the practical knowledge, but having the practical knowledge, I think, gives you an understanding of how data works. And if you understand how data works, then you can generally make a good assumption on something you don't know.
Yeah.
You
Right.
can
eliminate 2 out of the 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you know definitely aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they do allow you, they bring up, I think they have a window that allows you to search learn, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of new. And a lot of people started thinking, hey, this is more like an open book test. But I have talked to people that I know are very competent in this, that got caught in the trap of looking up way too much on that Microsoft Learn.
Yeah.
And the Learn is only within their testing software. It's not like you could have another browser open with Learn or anything like that.
No,
So
and I
use it sparing.
Yeah, I didn't use Learn because
it could take too much time away.
Yeah, it takes too much time, and I prefer to go through as many of the questions as I can. They will tell you when you can't go back and review them. So go through as many of the questions as you can and take your time, work out how many questions there are and how long you've got. So you know roughly, it's 2 minutes per question or 1 minute per question, whatever it is. And you can allocate the certain amount of time per the questions. And some questions might take you 10 seconds and some might take other. So I made the decision I didn't want to use Learn on either of them because Learn is quite it is a bit of a trap of sorts, Christina, and you can spend so long looking at Learn that you then lose track of what you're doing. And you should really, like Christina says, you should be able to understand pretty much what it is. Trust your gut. And so I didn't go back and change too many of them because I think I'd got most of them as right as I thought I would get right. Just make sure, with the PL300, you're going to have to understand DAX and M. So make sure you've got a good understanding of DAX and M. Generally the syntax and the structure and your modeling.
Yeah, and like the DAX and M, I think you're right because I remember taking this once before. But so they'll give you, basically a question with like fill in the blanks and then you drag over, right?
Yeah.
So because you're not writing, anything, and they're looking for that, but you have to understand the structure, some of the functions that you would be looking for, and they'll give you those choices to bring in and put them in the right place. So, but yeah, time management, like we've been talking about, is very, very important.
Yeah, it is. And you drag and drop, but think logically. If you're doing it, you should have a good. And this comes back to what we were talking about before. You do need practice. You shouldn't be able to pass just on the Microsoft Learn. It should embed. So I always have a project that you're interested in as well outside.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, right? Because if everybody could only pass just from going through Microsoft Learn, and there are some people that I've talked to, and I think we all know that have talked about they're just a good test taker, right? And they use these type of strategies that you're talking about, is eliminating so many of the answers, and then when they got a 50-50 shot, and they're surprised they're able to pass tests. So there are some people that can do that, but I think they're fewer and far between. It's like you said, study, use the resources, and actually, put a little passion project together, do something, to actually try to utilize it and go back and look at Learn again to reinforce it. So
because they're tools definitely to enable us to do things. And Christina's just put in, don't forget to breathe. We aren't in school anymore. So you know,
This is where your running experience comes in.
Yeah.
it really is.
It is.
I took, I booked, over Christmas, they were asking for volunteers for this DP7, you know, to do this reactor thing. And I thought, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And then afterwards, the next day, I thought, why have you said you would do that? You know, when you just think, why? And I thought, oh, they won't pick me. You know, they won't pick me. And then, of course, the email comes through. Yay, you're front, up screen, on. And I thought, oh, right. Well, I need to pass my DP 700 then. So if I'm going to do this, I need to pass for that, you know, for that comfort. And I booked it in. And I thought it was a date. And I was looking on my diary and I realized this was Sunday, 9 o'clock. What have I got tomorrow? 9 a.m. DP 700. I thought it was the following week. I was like, oh no, I'm not ready. I haven't studied. And like Christina said, I thought, do you know, I'm just going to treat it like a long run, a practice marathon run. It's a long run. It's 50 quid because I got one of the
vouchers.
You know, one of the vouchers. I thought it's 50 quid, or not even that. I thought it's practice, and I did it without any revision, and I got 650. And I thought, that's not bad. So
that's a good start for not really being ready.
Yeah. So I thought, right, okay. And then the following week I studied, and I did pass. But it doesn't matter if it takes more than one time. And actually, sometimes they say the better drivers are the ones that, you know, take it the second time. And, you know, the world's still going to start spinning. It's not going to stop spinning if you fail it. You just retake it and you get a better structure. So, yeah.
Well, and if you don't pass the first time, there's really only a handful of people that know.
Yeah.
And nobody else is going to know unless you expose that out. So, and if you pass the second time, you never have to tell anybody what happened unless you want to, right? So,
well, yeah, and
like you said, the world doesn't stop.
The world doesn't stop. And I tend to think a bit like the thing with the reactor when we decided we were going to focus on the different areas, because we didn't do that. You know, we don't have to say, yeah, I got this and I got that. You know, we can say, yeah, it's okay to fail. Just make sure you do it again. Learn from it and treat it. And that way it takes that whole pressure off, doesn't it? It's brilliant if you pass first time, and that's fabulous. Someone I saw, she passed with like 900 on it. Like, oh my, wow.
Well, we have just 5 minutes left, Sue. If you were going to give people just your biggest advice for the DP 700, what would you say?
Practice.
Practice.
Have a passion project and practice. I mean, the reactor slots are brilliant. I mean, obviously it's me, but there are some amazing presenters that have done some fabulous sessions. So theory and practice, play. Enjoy. Find something you want to play with and play with it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we shared the little comment that the producer came back for.
Right.
So, because Sue was telling us ahead of time, and you know, I've moderated a couple of these reactors or whatever, and so the link that we have is Sue's, but also because the way you guys work together, and like you said, you shared, here's what I really know, here's what he really knows.
Yeah.
Right. What did the producer give you as feedback afterwards?
He said it was a masterclass on how to present. So yeah.
So I plan on watching it just to kind of see that and improving my presentation skills, and maybe we'll get better here. So it's still Friday. Everything's out the window.
He couldn't believe that Josh and I had never met, but it was. I said to Josh, just as we were waiting in the back room to go on, as you do, I went, a bit nervous, Josh. And he's lovely Southern draw. And he went, Sue, you're just talking to me. And I went, oh, thanks, Josh. And so we both had each other's backs. And, we were like, you do that bit, I'll do that bit. And we shared that with each other. And with the audience, we went, well, I don't really do a lot of that, but he does. And he went, I don't do a lot of that, but she does. And so we took care of each other, which was really nice.
That's great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, as we start to wrap up, Sue, where if people are in the EU and they're looking for additional assistance, how can they best get a hold of you to engage with you on your services?
Well, I would say go to LinkedIn. I do have a database.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Have you got my LinkedIn there?
Oh, I do. I've shared that already, so we can just.
Or the other thing, what I would suggest people do, if you want to share my screen,
Yep.
Devon and Cornwall Microsoft Power BI user group. This is
awesome.
The user group that Anthony and I run. And every week, we tend to have someone on. And for me, this is the best way to stay up to date with what's happening. The similar is to what you're doing with Fabric Friday. You just have people on to chat and teach you. And I mean, I had Phil Seamark, he said, look at my session eyes. What do you want me to do? So I sat there with my coffee thinking, Phil Seamark, what would I like you to teach me for an hour? So we got Chris Webb coming up talking about Power Query. We just had Grace O'Halloran, who is a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, on networking and talking about private endpoints. And we had Andy Cutler telling us all about DBA tools. And so I learned all sorts of things. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn or my user group.
Oh, that's
you
fantastic.
have a phenomenal user group. So
it is fabulous.
You guys do a great job running that.
Yeah. We chat a lot, don't we, Anthony? So it's a great one. Oh, thanks, Tom. Yeah, there are some great sessions. It's but I think, just be honest. You don't have to know everything, but have a lively curiosity.
Amen.
Wonderful.
And with that, I'm going to take us out today because I just received notification from YouTube that we just crossed 1 million views of content.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
Better channels do that much faster, but it took me a long time to get there. And
you take your success, 1 million views. That's fabulous.
Yeah. So
well
very
done,
excited
Chris.
about that. And Sue, you were here for the millionth view. So and everyone on the channel.
We need this. We need the
it was all because of the bling.
Yeah. You guys, we did it. 1 million views. Well done,
you two. That is so well deserved.
Yeah. So how awesome that we get to share this stuff with each other, that we get to grow and work together. And how amazing is it that we get to now reach out to people all around the world to help each other out in this common challenge that we call data. So thank you guys all so very much. I hope each and every one of you have the best day ever.
Yeah.
Peace.
Congratulations, you two. I'm absolutely thrilled for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Combine strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.